How you doing, everybody? Randy Richard in the shop. Today we're going to do a little lapping, the Tom Lipton method that he shown not too long ago with the foil on the surface plate, to see if somebody else in their shop can do it. Not just the magic of Tom Lipton. So let's give it a try and do the anvil on this comparator sand. How you doing, everybody? Randy Richard in the shop. We're going to lap the anvil on this Mitutoyo Comparator stand right here. It has a low spot in the center, and we're going to see if we can fix it. I mean, we're talking millionths of a wear spot, but it is noticeable when you ring a gauge block on it. Anyway, we're going to see if we can fix it. We're going to use the Tom Lipton method with the foil on the surface plate, and we'll see how it all comes out here. Scribes, dovetail cutters, email me, please. I have everything in stock, and be nice to get rid of that stuff. So email me for details, and emails on the bottom of the screen here, usually. If you're new to the channel, that's how I support my channel, is by selling a couple tools that I make. I make them all. They're not made by somebody else. They're made right here in my shop, all on manual machines. Just so you know. What else? They're pretty damn nice. Not to say so myself. So, see the post on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. I don't think I'll be doing much Facebook anymore. I know Facebook owns Instagram, but I don't believe in what they're doing is right. So, I won't be on Facebook. I'll post stuff up on Instagram, pictures and such, but I doubt if I'll be very much on Facebook anymore. Just so that everybody knows. That's my feelings. Let's get on with doing the anvil. Alright, we're over here on the surface plate. Nice and clean. I've cleaned it and wiped it down. It's nice and clean. This is that Mitutoyo indicator for comparator stand. I took off the anvil. Now this has been lapped and everything to be flat, so you can ring, gauge blocks and such on it. Well, I cleaned up the base and all that, right? I've cleaned the back. It had some scum and dirt in there. Just kind of cleaned it up with Scotch-Brite. And I checked it. I put it on the plate here, and I checked it with the digital here, and we're going to go back here to, I've got it on 50 millionths per division. I checked it a little better now, but it's not, not so sensitive this way. I'll get her zeroed up here. So we're reading across there about almost 50 millionths going across, but there's a dip in the middle. It's very slow. It's only 10 or 20 millionths, but it is definitely a dip. Now it's not perfectly, obviously, parallel with the surface plate. It's within 50 millionths parallel, but there is a slight dip in the middle here. You can go across and see, and you can see the wear in the center areas where they were doing parts or such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Tom Lipton method. Now here's a gauge block. This is a 90 thousandths gauge block. and everything's nice and clean. And when you ring it on, you can kind of feel there's a bit of difference. It's rung on there, but you can feel that there is a difference. And, you know, and it does ring. So we're going to see if we can get a little bit better on there. Yeah, my hands are dirty. I know. My hands are always dirty. But they're actually not that dirty. So they just look dirty. Anyway, we're going to... the back must have been lapped too, because it's pretty darn good. It floats a nice little cushion of air there. Almost, you know, like a puck. Now this is just your cheapo grocery store aluminum foil here. This is nothing expensive or anything, that's for sure. I think it cost me $2 for that roll. That's a good thing. Now, this is Amazon, or Amazon? I think it was Amazon. No, this was eBay. Chinese diamond paste. 2.5, 1.5, 3.5, 0.5, 5, 7, and 1. 10. So that's a 10, 7, 5, 3.5, 2.5, 1.5, 1, and a 0.5. So I'm going to start right off with just the finest one, 0.5. And we'll just start up in the corner here. Whoa. Comes right out. I think we'll have to thin that a little bit. I'm going to use denatured alcohol. Now, I am not pushing down on this at all. It is so flat, let's put it this way, it's so flat it wants to ring to the aluminum. I'm going to try WD-40 instead. Doesn't evaporate so quick and stuff. I think WD-40 works a little better. There's definitely a polishing action going on. You can see the dark, I don't know if you can see the darkness on the foil, but there is cutting action going on, and you can see where the low spot is there in that center. A little wear spot. But the polish action is incredible. I'm just going to clean this off. I'm going to get us a new foil. Just use no denatured alcohol to clean it. clean towels. Now paper, these are paper towels. Paper is really kind of abrasive material, so especially, but you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but you can see the mirror action there, the polish. But there is a definite area in the center where it's a wear area. And that, only took a couple minutes. I'm going to go up to 1, and we're going to use just a touch more. I mean, a touch, just a little bit here. Takes very little of this stuff. And we're going to mix it with WD-40. Spread it around a little bit. Just you doing that with your finger, you can feel the cutting action. And I'm not even pushing on it. I'm just barely, just holding it enough to move it around. It's wringing itself down so much I can barely move it. Put some more lube in there, get a little more film going, but now my plate was resurfaced by Standridge guys, and they resurfaced it to, I think, 20 millionths. So my plate is very flat, very good, still in calibration, and it's really good. I can still see the wear area in there. You can just barely see it in there, but it is getting smaller. And actually, you can see where it is not just round in the center; it goes off to the side a little bit, like as I slid parts on there. You can just barely see it now. It's definitely starting to disappear. Just right in the middle there. Well, I would say this works really quite well, especially for the home shop here. This is you got a good plate, which that helps definitely. You can do stuff like this. I just wanted to try this out, and we'll do it a little bit more here, and then we're going to measure it again. See if we made a difference. That's getting rid of the scratches. You can still see that low spot in the center with the light just right. But the scratches are starting to diminish. All right. After I went up to 3.5 on the grit, and I did 2.5, 1.5. Now I'm going to do a half again. And I've got rid of the low spot. There's no sign of a low spot in the center anymore. There is still a few scratches, but they must be pretty bad. I mean, I can't quite. I could sit here for an hour or 2 hours and really get them out, I guess. But that 3.5 really got rid of most of them. There's really very few, and they're very faint. But the low spot is gone. That was my biggest concern. Anyway, it's really, really coming out nice. So you can see the reflection. Now we'll go to the smallest. A few hints: make sure your plate's clean. Put the foil down as tight as you can get it. Smooth, tight. Stretch it out with the tape. That really helps. So we're going to go to 0.5 here. And I like the WD-40. The WD-40 really actually works really well. It doesn't evaporate. And what I've been doing is I found that starting in the center of my foil and then working my way out. And I'll end up with an area about this big, and then I just work around, because what I'm doing is kind of stretching that foil and pushing it out and making it tight against the plate as I do this. And this seems to make the foil not so prone to a tear. Oops, just like I just tore it there, but shoot. But don't put pressure. You don't really need any pressure. If you put pressure, you can tear it. I know I probably pushed a little bit there, but anyway, I just work it on out a little bit, and it works a lot better, and it lasts. And every grit I change the foil. Every time I change the grit, the foil's cheap. 75 feet there, it was like $2. And once that grit gets into the foil, then it really cuts. But it also really grabs your workpiece. It really rings down, get rid of that boundary layer of lubrication. But it's cutting. Even now, it's starting to turn dark and a little bit. And using like a lubricant like WD-40, it might take a little bit longer to do this, but boy, if it sticks down to you can't move it at all when it's wrung down to the foil. You need something in there to be able to move it. And I pick it up every once in a while and move it around and get some slurry underneath. But boy, it does cut it though. Once you get that foil smooth like that, it's a lot easier. You see, you just keep it moving, keep it turning. I'm using denatured alcohol just to clean it off there with. There we go. That's pretty good. Like you said, there's some faint scratches that, you know, over years of use, but the low spot is gone. I can't see it in there at all anymore. So. All right, I'm going to stop, and we'll just run the gauge over it anyway, just to see how it is. See if we can tell if there was a difference. All right, we have got it all clean. You know, we're going to put it underneath the gauge here, and I have the gauge on 50 millionths is each division, and as I move over here, it barely a needle width off the 0 point, and I move over here to about there. It's the same, and the same this way and this way. So, but when I go out past the 1/4 inch from the edge, it starts to drop off a little bit. But this area within a 1/4 inch of the edge is very flat, very flat. What I'm measuring, and I'm measuring, you know, moving around like this. I'm actually measuring parallel also, and so it must be parallel to the plate, or very close to it. But I'm getting very little to no deflection on 50 millionths. It's too touchy to do it on 10 millionths. Just me standing here moves things. I just swept the piece, you know, back and forth in those 4 zones. I mean, cross, and so just this outside area here is where you get a little needle dip on that outside, the last 1/4 inch. And the nice thing here now, the gauge block rings in the middle. If I pick up off the plate, it will suspend it. That's on there. There we go. A little too much shaking, but yeah, this disc is quite heavy actually. But we can ring that on there. So I'm really happy with this, and the finish is pretty darn good. There's a lot of little micro scratches in it from the age of the piece. I didn't quite lap enough to get rid of all those, but I got rid of that low spot, and we got over probably around 90% of this area flat. Just a slight, we're talking millionths of a drop off out here at that edge. So let's see the reflection there, but that's just wiping it with my hand or in the shop. So this method works really well, especially for the home shop, and we'll be using this in the future, I think, on some tooling I want to make. Thanks, you guys, and thanks for watching. All right, you could see the meter in the second view there, and what I'm doing, I'm just going to sweep across. I'm just going to rotate the indicator. So we're right there in the center on 0. And we're just going to rotate over to this side. And, yeah, you know, like I was saying, within about 1/4 of an inch of the edge, it's still 0. And if I go over the edge, it drops off a tiny bit. Now, each division is 1/10. So that's like half a tenth. 50 millionths. And we'll come back to 0 in the middle, and then we'll sweep over here to the other side, and it stays 0 until out there at the edge, and it drops off a little bit. I'll move across, but you know, moving across doesn't. Rotating is better here. We're not measuring how parallel. I don't want to measure how parallel this surface is with the surface plate. And as I move the surface gauge across this way, I'm measuring parallel. And I know it's not parallel with the plate. But if I rotate into one position, I get a better indication of that, of how flat it really is. So, yeah, if I move over here, see, it's a few tenths off. You know, we're not talking very much out of parallel, but a couple tenths that way. And if I slide it sideways, you'll see there it's a little bit. Actually, forward and back, it's pretty level with the plate. It's a couple tenths side to side. And I just wanted to show you that a little bit of a comparison about flatness there. I mean, it came out beautiful. Since I can ring to it, you know, treat it like it's gauge block surface.